Welcome to the Reiki Coach on Call podcast. I'm Mary Riposo, a Reiki master, teacher, mentor, and author, and I give Reiki practitioners the tools they need to get their healing work out into the world. We're continuing our discussion on the business of Reiki. In the last episode, I talked about offering Reiki sessions, and today our focus is on teaching Reiki classes as a business path. I'll give you the pros and cons, as well as what you need to get started teaching Reiki classes. I'll share a personal story about how teaching Reiki classes helped me overcome my shyness and build confidence. And I'll help you figure out if teaching Reiki classes is right for you. So welcome into my office. I'm here at my desk, having some Earl Grey tea, one of my favorites. And I might even have a chocolate pecan biscotti sitting next to it for later. I think I'm all set. So grab a seat, pour a cup of tea for yourself, and let's talk Reiki. So let's talk about teaching Reiki classes. First of all, in order to teach Reiki classes, you must be a Reiki master, because after all, Reiki classes are the way we initiate others and teach them how to practice the system of Reiki. Reiki classes are taught in levels, typically 3 levels, depending on the lineage and the style of Reiki taught. Level 1 is the beginning level. We call it Shoden in traditional Japanese Reiki. In a level 1 class, you learn the basics of the system of Reiki and how to practice Reiki for self-care. Level 2 is called Okuden in traditional Japanese Reiki. In a level 2 class, you receive 3 symbols and learn how to share Reiki with others both in person and at a distance. And level 3 is called Shinpiden in traditional Japanese Reiki. In a Reiki master class, you receive the master symbol, learn advanced practices, as well as how to teach Reiki to others. Reiki is usually taught through lecture, guided practice, and a ritual called attunement. Of course, there are other kinds of Reiki classes, trainings, or workshops you could teach, but today I'm going to focus specifically on Reiki training. Reiki classes can be taught in person, which is a traditional way of doing it, or they can be done remotely, which usually means teaching live online. There are some online Reiki classes that are completely self-directed with no live component, but I don't recommend that. I believe it's important to have a live component and for students to have access to a teacher during their training. Even Hawayo Takata, the person responsible for bringing Reiki to the West, occasionally taught remotely. Of course, it wasn't her usual way of teaching, but under certain circumstances, when a student was unable to travel, she taught Reiki through letters and phone calls. I find that amazing. So Reiki can be taught in person or remotely, and it can be taught to one person at a time or to a group of people. There are really no limits on who can learn the practice of Reiki. It's available to everyone. And if you've never taught Reiki classes, I bet you have a bunch of questions swirling around in your head about how it all works. You're probably wondering about the pros and cons and whether this is the right path for you. But don't worry, you're not alone. Stick with me and we'll go over everything you need to know about getting started with teaching Reiki classes. So first, let's take a look at the upside to teaching Reiki classes. And then we'll go over any pitfalls you might face before deciding whether to teach Reiki classes as a business path. Being a Reiki teacher can be one of the most rewarding things you can do in your business. And teaching Reiki classes can provide personal fulfillment, professional growth, and positively impact the lives of others. Here are my top 3 pros of teaching Reiki classes. 1, making a positive impact. So one of the most rewarding aspects of teaching is the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of your students, as well as the greater society. It's deeply satisfying to see your students light up as they learn to practice Reiki. But beyond that, just imagine how many lives your students will touch through their healing skills and the ripple it will have out in the world. So just before I came on today, I was thinking back to my very first Reiki class. I bet you remember yours too. Mine was in the fall in upstate New York where I live, and there were two other students in the class. We were seated facing a large window, and outside there was a grove of maple trees that had just begun to change color. And after the attunement, I opened my eyes and all the colors were brighter. It was like seeing for the first time. And I felt really alive, really plugged into the energy. I was so excited to learn the Reiki practices and to share them with others. And as I think about it now, I realize that Reiki has helped me in so many ways, from healing illness to making healthy choices, to building my intuition, and even to learning who I am as a person. And with every class I teach, I'm empowering my students to receive all those benefits for themselves, as well as for the people that they choose to share it with. There's nothing else quite like it. So the second pro of teaching Reiki is building confidence. For me, teaching Reiki classes has really boosted my confidence. Before I started teaching Reiki classes, I was painfully shy. I literally froze up whenever I had to talk to a group of people. So at the beginning of my Reiki journey, teaching wasn't even on my radar. I took Reiki training in order to heal from a mystery illness that had sidelined me from life. I'd been receiving Reiki sessions and they were helping me. And then I found out I could also learn how to practice on myself. And I wanted to get well, so I began Reiki training. Back then, I didn't even think about teaching Reiki classes. Like I said, it was the furthest thing from my mind. But life had a different plan. As Reiki helped me recover from my illness, people started commenting on how great I looked and asked what I was doing differently. I told them that I was practicing Reiki, and of course, they wanted to know what it was. So I continued with my Reiki training in order to learn how to do sessions with others. And after several years of offering Reiki sessions, I had so many clients wanting to learn Reiki from me. So I ended up taking my Reiki master training. But even then, I had to overcome my shyness. Luckily, my Reiki practice healed my shyness and helped me step into my purpose as a teacher. It didn't happen all at once. It started small. I taught to one or two students at first, and then slowly graduated to teaching larger classes. Taking small steps was a great way to get started and build confidence as a Reiki teacher. That's what I recommend for you too, if you're feeling unsure of yourself. As a new teacher, you're bound to feel a little bit nervous. I mean, unless you're already trained as a teacher in another field. And as you start teaching classes, you'll get more and more comfortable with the process. You'll start seeing results and you'll learn who you are as a teacher. And I'm not going to lie, I was super nervous in those first few classes. I wasn't sure what to say, how to present, and what materials to use. I felt like an imposter most of the time. I made mistakes, which is completely normal, and I was hard on myself. But as I got more experience, I felt more comfortable. So the third pro of Reiki teaching is that it can lead to gaining respect and recognition. As a Reiki teacher, you'll automatically be seen as an authority in your field. As you get more experience teaching Reiki classes, you'll gain the respect of others and more students will be drawn to your classes. Satisfied students will automatically refer others to you because of the positive experiences they had in your classes. So, as you can see, there are a lot of great reasons to offer Reiki classes. But are there any downsides? Well, as long as you take three things into account, you'll be okay. They are number one, teaching Reiki classes takes a lot of planning and effort. It's not something that you do in the short term. It's more of a long game. You'll want to start with level one. And then once you're comfortable teaching that class, you'll go on to teaching level two and then maybe master level. It takes many years to become a good Reiki teacher, and it requires persistence and organization. Now, number two, teaching Reiki classes can be expensive, especially if you teach in-person classes. Even though you can teach from anywhere, if you decide to make teaching a big part of your business, you'll need all the infrastructure to make that happen. You don't need to start there, but you'll need to invest in your classes in order to make them work. And number three, Reiki classes are not usually a good first place to start in a Reiki business. I recommend offering Reiki sessions for a while before jumping into teaching Reiki classes. A good teacher is able to pull examples and stories from their own practice. And the more experience you have offering Reiki sessions, the more stories you'll gather from your practice. So don't skip that step and just go from finishing your training straight to teaching. It's just not going to work. So as you can probably tell, I love teaching Reiki classes. But I bet you're wondering how profitable teaching Reiki classes is. Well, the amount of money you can make teaching Reiki classes varies depending on where you're located in the world and whether you teach in person or online. Because Reiki classes are more expensive than Reiki sessions to pull off, and you'll likely have more than one person in each class, teaching Reiki classes can be pretty profitable, especially if you keep your overhead costs low. For in-person classes, one way to keep expenses down is to find a free or low-cost space to teach out of. Classes can be taught out of your home, out of students' homes, within corporate offices, wellness centers, outdoors, and of course, in private office settings. I've taught classes in a lot of different places, and there's no one way that's better than the other. At first, I taught out of my home. Then, when my classes got larger, I rented space from a church. Eventually, I opened my own 11,000 square foot wellness center that had a dedicated classroom space. But I've also taught Reiki classes outdoors under a pavilion on a nice day. Another way to keep expenses down is to teach online. Since 2020, I've been teaching all of my Reiki classes online. It works well for me and it gives access to so many more people than I could have ever reached before. So for people who can't travel or can't be away from home for long periods of time, online Reiki classes are the perfect solution. If you teach online, you'll probably have very few expenses other than a computer to connect with your students, your Reiki manuals, and certificates. So, should you go for it? The short answer is yes. I highly recommend teaching Reiki classes because, one, they're a great way to make a positive impact on the lives of others. Two, they help you build confidence as a Reiki professional. And three, they can bring great respect and recognition. Now, I bet you want to know what you need to get started teaching Reiki classes. Well, I've created a quick start checklist for you, which I'll share in a moment. But first, let's take a Reiki break. A Reiki break is great to do anytime you feel the need to relax and come back to center. You're invited to participate whether or not you've been trained in Reiki. So put everything aside, including all your thoughts and concerns. Place your hand somewhere comfortable on your body. If it's safe to do so, gently close your eyes. If not, you can keep your eyes open. This works either way. Now begin to take some deeper breaths. Consciously release any tension you're holding. And now feel the healing essence of Reiki activating within you, flowing through you, within you, and around you. Coming fully into the present moment, the only moment that exists. Feel yourself rooted to the earth, completely at home in your physical body. Feel your connection to spirit and open to higher wisdom. As you begin to feel a deep compassion for yourself and for all beings everywhere. Resting in this place of grounded, spacious compassion for a few moments longer. Now begin to come back by bringing your awareness to your eyes, taking some deeper breaths, and coming back fully now. That was so nice. I feel so much more relaxed and present now. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, I almost forgot. That's what happens when you practice Reiki. Time and space tend to fall away. Okay, so this episode's quick start checklist is brought to you by the Done For You Reiki Teacher Bundle. I've created this bundle specifically for those who teach Reiki classes. Included is a Reiki classes brochure you can use to promote your classes, and it even has a place to add your own contact information. The bundle also includes class certificates, as well as all the forms you need for your Reiki classes, like a class evaluation form, a symbols quiz, and written after-class instructions you can hand out to your students. And finally, there's a business finances tracker you can use to document your income and expenses. The Done For You Reiki Teacher Bundle will up-level your practice and bring a professional flair to your classes, and I highly recommend it. I'll drop a link nearby for the Reiki Teacher Bundle, so make sure to look for that. Okay, so now for my quick start checklist on how to get started teaching Reiki classes. Number 1, first, decide which classes you'll offer and the prices you'll charge for them. I recommend starting with level 1 and offering it several times until you get really comfortable with it. And then you can move on to level 2 and later to Reiki master classes if you choose. In addition to Reiki training, you can also offer Reiki workshops, but that's a topic for another time. Once you've decided on your class offerings, create a write-up of what each class entails to use in your promotions. Number 2, decide where you'll teach your Reiki classes. Classes can be taught from your home or office, a student's home, rented space, or even a public place. For in-person classes, you'll need a physical space to work out of, and it should be large enough to hold tables and chairs for the students and at least one Reiki table. If you offer online Reiki classes, it's even easier to get started. All you need is a quiet place to work and a computer with internet access to stream from. For all classes, you'll need Reiki manuals to teach from. You can write your own manuals or you can purchase them. I recommend using the manuals that you learned from if possible. Check with your Reiki master teacher to find out which manual they recommend. You'll also need a certificate of completion for each student who completes your class. Number 3, you'll need a way for potential students to find you. Most of us find that our first students are our family, friends, and/or our clients. Once people receive Reiki sessions from you, they're probably going to want to learn it for themselves. So you probably won't need to do very much advertising when you first start teaching. But when it comes time to spread the word about your classes to a larger crowd, you'll want to create a simple website or a link tree or Facebook business page or even a Google business profile where you can list your classes, descriptions, and how to sign up. Number 4, you'll need a way for students to sign up for classes and a way to communicate with them. You can start by having them contact you directly to register, but as your classes get bigger or you teach more frequently, you will want to automate the registration process. When you get to that point, I recommend adding a scheduling tool like Calendly or Acuity. And you'll also need a way to communicate with your students. You can use your personal email at first, but if you regularly teach classes, you'll eventually want to sign up for an email system. There are many to choose from, including MailerLite, MailChimp, and Constant Contact. Finally, decide how to take student payments. You can start by accepting cash and checks, but most clients like the ease of paying by credit card. So I recommend checking into PayPal, Venmo, or Stripe. Also, because classes are more expensive than sessions and take more effort on the part of the teacher to produce, many Reiki teachers require a deposit or upfront payment for classes. So being organized and making it easy on your students is important. All right, so let's recap. To get started teaching Reiki classes, you'll need to decide on 1, your classes and prices, 2, where to teach, 3, a website or some way for prospective students to find your classes, 4, a way to keep track of your students and communicate with them, and 5, a way to take payments. I hope you feel more inspired to start teaching Reiki classes as a business path. I know you can do it, and I'll be here cheering you on. If you need a little more help, contact me to schedule a mentoring call, and make sure to check out the Done For You Reiki Printables Teacher Bundle. In the meantime, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and I'll see you next time for the Reiki Coach on Call podcast, where I'll spill the tea on selling products in your Reiki business.